Um, let's get settled. I can see others are still busy doing other things. So we are starting our afternoon session. I hope we had a good lunch. We enjoyed the meal. So as we get settled, I want to introduce the speaker that is going to start our afternoon. I won't say much about her, but as the session will go through, you'll come to know her in detail. Those who had the opportunity to look at the program, probably you have done a bit of research about who she is. Let me introduce, I call her Melissa. I've fallen in love with that name. Her Malambo. She has a middle name, Sarah, from Center for Young Leaders in Africa. She's the executive director there. I think she fits very well for our session. And when we were doing a hunt for someone to speak to our young people, when I saw the profile, I said to myself, Amen. I've reached. That's the person I've been looking for. I'm really excited as we start this session, and I'm very sure we're going to benefit out of it. Over to you, Melissa.
Thank you, Jack. Good afternoon. Am I in a room with young leaders? Yes. I am? Yes. Can I hear your voices? Good afternoon. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, and just taking us through some of the characteristics of leaders and getting to hear from all of you where your thoughts are when it comes to leaders and how you view yourselves as leaders. Personally, it was slightly worrying to hear that when the question was asked, who are the leaders you recognize or aspire to be like, there was no female. And the females mentioned males in the room. So I changed the outcome of my session to, by the end of the females and males in this room must be able to name at least 5 females who they consider as leaders and who they draw lessons from. Okay? By the end of this session, I will check in with all of you. At least 5 from your different countries because they are there. So let's pay attention to the wave of feminine leadership that is coming across in our countries. Okay, are we done downloading the app? We are, all of us? Yes, yes, yes? All right. So the first thing you see when you have your first screen is that, right? Click on Start. It will bring, if that doesn't come, ignore it. If it's something, a prompt to ask you if you already have a profile, so just click on No. And then it should bring you a screen that says Start and put your name. Please fill in your names and then press Start. So this should take us just 2 minutes. So everyone fill in your name and then press Start. Are we there? So it's given you some prompts, right? Telling you that your splash will keep growing bigger, etc., etc. It's done a countdown for you when you press next, next, next. When you press continue, continue. Okay, you have a countdown. If you have not gotten to the countdown part, then you are not moving with me. Are you there? I will not move until I get a resounding yes. Are we all there? What is the first question you've received? This should just take us 2 minutes.
I often make spontaneous or last-minute decisions.
Okay. So at the bottom of your screen, you have your disagree or agree. So you click on which option you are going to take, right? If you agree with the statement that's across your screen in the middle, you click agree. If you disagree, you click disagree until you get to the end of your little test. So please, I will give you the next 1 minute to complete that test. Continue. Okay, I think the majority of us are almost done, right? When you get that beautiful screen that is very, very colorful, it shows you your name and what it thinks your strengths or personality traits are, right? Take a screenshot in case you lose it. We're going to also use that screen in case it doesn't come to the link does not go to your email address where you can fully access it. So take a screenshot of that. Wellington, I'm back. We are speaking the same language. Take a screenshot. Yeah. So those who are done, please just raise your hands so that we see who's left. If you're done, Imiani Manja. Okay. I think most of the room. Emmanuel there is not raising his hand, but nodding his head. I don't know what I'm supposed to mean. Nancy in the back, are we okay? We are done. Please be with me in the room. Gabriel, are you done? All right. So please just keep the results. We shall use them a little bit later. We are not done. No, I'm asking. No, I'm done. It is safe to conclude we are done, eh? Yeah, keep them safe. Please do not get distracted by them. We shall still talk through them as we go through this session of ours. So by the end of this session, we'll be able to all identify our strengths as leaders. We are leaders, right? I heard someone saying he's motivated by himself in the room, somewhere in the front here, that the person he considers a leader is himself. He has all the characteristics of a leader. So I am in a room of already established young men and women who consider themselves leaders, right? So as much as you're here to learn one or two things from me, I'm also here to learn from you. And we're here to learn from each other. So we are all going to just, I encourage us to keep an open mind and to indulge in the process of introspection and reflection. In my opinion, I think it's very easy to look to others and say they are a leader because of A, B, C, D. But when we look to ourselves, what do we see? What do we think? When we look at our experiences in life, I believe we are all under 35, right? So we've lived 3 decades on Earth, roughly 3 decades, plus 5 years. So there are certain things that have happened to us on this good earth that have influenced where we are today. And we're going to take time to think through that, to sit and analyze and unpack as individuals and as well as together on what are some of those things that have brought us to where we are today. Why are we in this room? Why do I look at myself and say, yes, I am a leader. I am the next member of parliament for my community. I am the next councillor. I am the next vice chancellor for a school if you are in academia, or I am the next first female president for Zambia. I shall make the first man in this country. Okay? So as Melissa, what has brought me this far? Why am I here? What has influenced my decisions to get me to this point? So that's the conversation we are going to have in this room. I'd like to make mention that we have some new features in the room. These things were not there in the morning. They are here now. So we have 2 beautiful cameras in the back there. They are for me. Don't be distracted by them. They are all for me. Okay? We have friends online who will be joining us briefly for this session. Hello to everyone who's joining us online. And we'll chase them a little bit when we just want to be us in the room. So they'll be with us for the next 30 minutes or so. We good? All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I will quickly just switch you to some slides while I talk you through my experience as a leader. I am under 35, and we'll leave it at that. So, Melissa is a young woman. She identifies as female, born of 2 parents, in a family of 4. She is the first female child of her parents. At one point in her life, in between the ages of 7 and 8, she overheard a conversation by her father and her uncle. The 2 gentlemen were talking about how they felt very sad about an article they had read or heard on the news where a man had been caught and imprisoned for defiling a 3-month-old baby. Now, at the age 7 and 8, this did not make a lot of sense to Melissa. However, she could feel the emotions that the 2 men were exuding and could read through some of their comments. How could he do that to a baby? He's literally destroyed that young life. There are sex workers out there on the street who would have willingly helped him. All he had to do was pay a 5 kwacha. But he had to do this to a baby. At that time, it was formed in her young mind that this was wrong, and no one should be let loose or be out there destroying children's lives, especially those of the girl child. She believes that was the beginning of activation of activism in her life. That one episode where 2 adults were conferring with each other and they didn't know that some young little person was listening in a corner. She grew up in a home that encouraged the art of reading. And this is reading extensively from anything and everything, from newspapers to novels to biographies. Her father was very militant about school, ensuring that they attended class regardless of the situation. Well, unless she had an asthma attack and she slept in a hospital, then she wouldn't be in school. So she attended her school, ensured that she got good grades. Melissa had and still has a very strong matriarch presence in her life, her mother, who at some point had to be the sole breadwinner in the home. And from that experience, she has learned that it is okay to be a woman and to be in charge. Melissa considers herself a leader, and she feels leadership sometimes was imposed on her as a child. This comes from teachers telling her that you are very quiet, you're an introvert, you're very firm, you're a very strong person, we need you as the class monitress. We know those people, right? Those people like taking down noisemakers, the ones who are teachers' pets. That's who she was. When she got to junior high, she was elected as the head girl of a junior high school. After going to the school for only 1 year, the teachers and the school thought it right to elect someone who would technically be considered a foreigner in that space, because this was in a different province of the country. So those are some of the foundational areas where the so-called leadership journey started, by being pushed into spaces like that where you were encouraged to speak your mind and to guide others through. Melissa decided to study law at tertiary education. Yes, she is a lawyer. She has an LLB degree. And this also stems from seeing a lot of injustices that were done during her childhood and wanting to change some of those injustices. One of the most extreme things she's always wanted to do, maybe not now, but in the past, was to castrate all men that defile children as the sole punishment. So that desire led her to take the legal course in her tertiary education. Things have changed along the way. I don't want to castrate all men, but some deserve it. She watched a lot of TV growing up, lots of Western influences in her life. One of those influences is Oprah Winfrey. if you grew up in the time where I grew up in the 2000s, late 1990s, we had the Oprah Winfrey talk show, right? And a lot of different topics were discussed on that show. She usually gravitated to discussions around violence against women. Why? Only God knows. But those were some of the things that held her attention. Conversations around entrepreneurship, money, and generally just the empowerment and safeguarding of the woman. Melissa also gravitated towards politics because her father, who used to love to watch the news, would always sit with her and ensure that at 19 hours, you've bathed and you're there on the carpet and you're watching the news so that you keep updated with what's going on in the country. So part of the news talks about politicians, the work they are doing for the country, how they are responsible for all the wrong things that happen in the land of Zambia and all over in the world. All the wars and bombings, Israel, Palestine, Afghanistan, all those things. Being young, it never made a lot of sense why men were destroying fellow men in the name of religion, power, the difference in understanding. A line, this is my land, this is your land, you have come into my land. Fictitious things, eh? Things you see on a map. The two countries have been divided. None of that made sense at the time. But as I got older, it began to make sense. I also gravitated towards people who spoke out. People who were giving a different perspective of view about key things in life, such as our culture, our traditions. So that is a little bit about Melissa's foundational beginnings. So life happened in all these years to me living 3 decades. Growing up, my parents changed towns a lot, so we town hopped for a while in the search for greener pastures, which meant that I attended close to 11 schools between primary and secondary. Now, if you do the math, that means I was in a different school every year, right? In every grade. The impact of that is that I became socially detached in the school place. I couldn't keep friends because I had friends today. Tomorrow I didn't have them. I was in a different town, okay? And that does something to anyone growing up as a child. Did it mess with my academics? Yes, it did at some point. It did. I was a very brilliant child. Those number 1s in class, we are the ones, okay? But when I got to my secondary education, that began to suffer a little bit because the environments were changing every time. So that did affect my academics. Another thing that I consider life happened was our culture and tradition. For those who, well, you are all in African countries, and I know you will agree with me that young women are meant in some homes to co-parent. They tend to raise the other gender in the home. You cook, you clean, you take care, you become the responsible child for everyone else. So you are put in a place of co-parenting on top of accessing your own education and being able to identify who you are and what you want in this life. There's always that expectation that regardless of all the responsibilities you're given, you should also still be able to bring back the same results as the boy child in the home space. You should also still be able to perform at the same rate as the boy child and not complain about anything. I found that very challenging growing up because I am a person with an opinion. I have always had an opinion, and I always want my opinion to be heard. So that tended to cause a lot of clashes in the home space with my parents, with my siblings, and I remember being told, you are a girl, you shouldn't be this loud. Don't speak up. Sometimes just keep quiet and do as you're told. But where does that get us at the end of the day? Abused. Fast forward, I have been in the space of employment for close to 10 years, a decade. I started working very early in life, and that's because finances at some point dwindle. You get to a point where you need to be in university and there is no money, okay? So you take on a job to support yourself through school, you start and stop, again, having my social life disrupted. And the expectation is still that you should perform very well and get good grades. And it happened. We did get good grades. We don't falter. I also met a guy. Yes, at the age of 19. Yeah. He's a very nice guy. Very, very nice guy. But yes, he was a challenge. He was a challenge. You engage with love and hormones and sex as teenagers, right? And if not managed well, that tends to affect the decisions that you make in life. Luckily for me, I love myself. His decisions did not affect my decisions. We ended that. So learning how to deal with a breakup, learning how to let go of a first love. Very interesting. We can talk about this on the other side. But I hope at the end of the day you will see how and why I'm speaking about this in relation to my leadership journey. So back to the workspace. I took a good, I'll call it a good job, in a very good organization, an INGO, an international non-governmental organization at some point in my life. And there I was exposed to what working in a toxic work environment is, where you do not trust anyone. Today they're your friend, tomorrow they're your enemy. Tomorrow your friend is the one reporting some weird information to your country director, to the HR, okay? So that exposed me to some of the key challenges of working in a workplace, and I found it very difficult. Being a person who, again, speaks her mind, who's very straightforward, who's a logical thinker, and sometimes who misses the cues. In society, there are certain cues, eh? If you meet a police officer on the street, you were speeding, he pulls you over, and he's telling you, "Madam, sir, you were speeding." And you say, "Oh, sorry, sorry, sorry." Then they ask you, "What are we going to do about it?" You know what they want, eh? You know what they want. Some of those things go over my head. I guess it's how I am. So I'll ask you, what are we going to do about it? What do you mean? What are we going to do about it? So maybe being like that and being in a workplace, some of those things went over my head, but I learned a lot of lessons from that experience on workplace conduct and how to focus on your job in the workplace. It has taken me close to 3-4 years to recover from working in a toxic work environment. But in that space, I picked up on life lessons that I believe are very fundamental to bringing me to where I am today. So our journey continues. We keep going. We keep growing. Melissa learns certain things about herself through being exposed to platforms that focus on development of a young person's mind. Platforms such as this one, where you're here to discuss leadership and what leadership means to you. She learned that life is a journey. It's not something that starts and stops here and now. Because you have your degree, life has stopped. You get your first job, life has stopped, and the learning stops. No, it is continuous, and it takes personal effort to recognize that and to keep growing, to continue learning. She also realized that one of her key strengths is that she doesn't panic. She organizes. No matter how hard things are going, no matter how chaotic a space is, no matter how chaotic her own mind can get as a leader, she does not panic. She organizes, she plans, she puts steps in place to get to the outcome that she wants. She has also learned to love herself and accept her body for what it is. Through the different stages of life and growing up, as women, you take on different shapes, forms, and sizes. It takes a lot of introspection and reflection to define who you are and be comfortable with who you see in the mirror. And to switch off those voices that you hear in society. She's too slim. She's too fat. She's too brown. No, a woman should have boobs. She should have a behind. Okay? No, your legs should be shaped like this. Men want women who look like this. I'm sure my sisters can relate. That does something to you in the back of your mind, right? It may not always be in the front, but it does something to you. It creates a perception that you are not enough. If you are not one of the lucky ones, like myself, who had a lot of body shaming growing up, thank God. So she's come to accept her body in whatever shape, form, or size it takes, and to understand that as long as it is fit and healthy, it is good. It can do what it needs to get done. Melissa has also adopted a mindset of growth throughout the years. She's a positive thinker. She chooses to always see the silver lining in any situation. She can be broke, dead broke, with one kwacha in the bank account, but she will not be sad because she sees this as an opportunity to strategize on how to make more money and bring back more money in the bank. So, fully taking on a mindset of growth. Through this journey too, she has identified areas that she feels strongly about that she wants to influence. She's become an advocate and an activist for key social issues that she's very passionate about. So currently, as Jack introduced me, I head a civil society organization. Now, if you work in the CSO space, you will understand that it is busy. Very, very busy, depending on the level you are at. At my level of senior management, it is very busy. So, she's currently focusing on trying to strike a work-life balance. How to manage her home, herself, her relationships, all across the board, and how to ensure that she does not burn out and still continue giving to the communities that she loves. She's also decided to focus on writing and growing her writing skills. Like I mentioned, I grew up reading, and I feel at this point in my life I should be able to give an opinion on certain matters. So Melissa is now writing, and she's trying to take that seriously. Some of her personality characteristic assets that help her to do the work that she's doing, that help her to lead the life that she's leading, to support people in the workplace, to support fellow activists, to also support young politicians, are those that you're seeing on your screen. She is driven by inspiration. She's down to earth, people-focused, introverted. She's discipline driven, and she also has big picture thinking. Some of the things that she is choosing to begin to let go of, to begin to address, is that thing we call the imposter syndrome. We've heard of it before, right? We haven't. The imposter syndrome, feeling like you do not belong. You do not deserve where you are now. You have not worked hard enough to be where you are. This is just a miracle. It just came. It fell on your laps, eh? Someone else should be doing it. What does that do? And maybe, well, should I say it or should I not say it? I will say it. Maybe women identify more with the imposter syndrome than male, but we will hear from the room. It also depends on, again, your upbringing. So she's choosing to do away with feeling like an imposter, feeling like she does not deserve to be called and to say, look, we want you to be the one to come and speak. Because fear is also one of those things that's fading away. I speak my mind now, with no reserve, with a little bit of regard. It's not fully gone away, but it's something that is going away. Because I now am at a stage in my life where I need to speak. For anything to move or happen, I need to speak. If you are wrong, Gabriel, I will tell you, in my opinion, what you are saying is ... Okay? Giving away the fear. Sometimes we fear things we don't even know. You view yourself as a bold person, but are you truly bold? If you still hold back because you fear what society will say about you and how you live your life or what you think. Accepting that my opinion may not always be the popular opinion. Regardless, it's my opinion. And if I can validate it, you will hear it because I will tell it to you. The things I'm saying goodbye to now. Again, raised as a young woman in an African country, you are wired to believe that your happiness, your joy, your success is dependent on the other gender to be successful. If you have a partner who you've committed to, it is their job to ensure that you are happy. It is their job to ensure that you are driving that SUV that you want. It is the way they prove their manhood also. That's what society has taught them. So at this stage in my life, my happiness, my peace, my luxuries, my dreams are my responsibility. I no longer ascribe to the teaching that a man should for a woman. And I personally encourage those who work with me and those I mentor that do not ask for what you cannot give yourself. If you cannot buy yourself that SUV, please leave someone's son alone. He has his own problems. Don't become a problem. Go and ask your father. Okay? Because they too are bearing their own crosses. The times have changed. Yeah, the times have changed. So that's one thing I have said goodbye to, placing the responsibility on others for things that I want to achieve. I believe working with others is a joint venture to achieve what I want. It's not their sole responsibility. They are there as a support system. So to my sisters, if there's nothing that you pick from this, pick this one thing. It's not your fault, but check your conditioning, Check your conditioning. So, Melissa, in the year 2023, is among other things a spiritual being, a friend, a housemate to a very awesome guy, who you may know or call as a husband. She's a relative to many. She's an alumni of those prestigious leadership programs. And as introduced, she is also a non-profit civil society leader. That is who Melissa is, and that is the Melissa I bring to you today. Thank you for clapping for me before I officially finished. I accept. So ladies and gentlemen, I've just taken you through my leadership journey using the tool that we call a tree of life, which helps us to identify parts of our history that have impacted us where we are today. It also helps us identify our strengths, our weaknesses, areas in which we have blind spots, areas in which we feel we should improve as we continue in this leadership journey. So now, we are going to take some time, each one individual, see group work, individually to introspect. But before we do that, I would like to say goodbye and thank you to my audience on the cameras, my virtual audience, and that we'll be releasing them for now as we will focus on our session in the room. Thank you very much.